Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Ananda Rose, and today I have with me the amazing, wonderful Jack Morrigan walking through the streets of Berlin. Hello, Jack, and welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Ananda.
Oh,
Yeah, just to give a little context, my internet wasn't working this morning, so I came out for a walk to find some, and now I'm about to land at a nice bench near Tiergarten in Berlin.
okay. Oh, wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Jack, I just want to say to you, big thank you to you because um, you know, you being coming into my space and being on the channel with me is, like I said, I was guided to pull cards, and one of the cards I got from the Akashic Tarot was Fated Meeting. And so
Mm,
I had so many downloads throughout this week about us meeting. And one of the things my guides always remind me is that I need to do a light language welcome onto the channel with you. And as I was saying before we went to record, please feel free to respond if you feel the need to. All right. So I'm just going to take a moment to breathe. I'm going to put musicians mode on, so we might get some of the sounds coming through on that side, because sometimes music comes through it or singing comes through it. Are we good? Are we good?
we're good.
Still?
We're good to go.
Okay. Welcome, Jack. Itsabakai tukora makaina fahe kototokora aina tutufarahai. Tumaka ain tutufaai. Kuramahai, kuramahai, kuramahai. Hilolololucia. Ilabaha tutufarana, hatakuramahai tamakai. Kotsibaramakai to foramahai, katamahino kototata. Inamesheha. Kitsamarahai. Kitsaba.
Thank you.
Namaste. Kotanai. Well, isn't that interesting? You sat down just as that came to an end. Wonderful. Okay. I got to say that anything can happen on this channel. So if anything is happening, we're okay to put it on, stop the recording. We're okay for you to, if you suddenly get a download, to share it. Karamaka fotetoto, right? Okay. So tell me, My Rising Rose, what is that all about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I started working with the dragons a couple of years ago, they they introduced themselves and they were telling me all their names. And then I was like, well, you guys are all kind of part of the same group, so it must have a name. And then straight away, they said, we are the Dragons of the Rising Rose. And to
Okay.
be honest, I was a bit like, I'm not into the rose stuff. Like, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I never really personally resonated that much. So I was a bit like, oh, really?
Yeah,
The Dragons
yeah,
of the Rising Rose. It's a bit cheesy. Like, that was how I was interpreting it.
yeah.
Um, and then, like, as time has gone on, I've started to understand a little bit about the like the mysteries of the rose, or I've been connected to people who have had those connections, and it's helped me to understand.
Mm,
But the idea with My Rising Rose, which is the website that I have and the healing sanctuary that I run, it's really a place where people can deepen in their connection to Gaia and to the spiritual mysteries and to the different beings that exist all around us who can support us and transform our lives. So for myself, I've gone through so many changes over these past 10 years, and it's like everything that I've gone through and all these ways that my life has changed, I've wanted to give that to other people. And
okay.
this is really the place where that happens.
Hmm. So I've watched some of the YouTube videos that you've put on My Rising Rose YouTube channel, because you've got a YouTube channel as well, not just the website. And I know
Yep.
that you've got events happening on the website that people can register for. There's also something like a
Mhm.
membership there. And I know that you on the website you say that you connect with goddesses and dragons. And
Mm.
I know my point about watching the YouTube channel is I noticed that you seem to have these events where you are there, or okay, so you're doing events online and you do channeling like that. And I watched that one where there was a terrible storm whilst you were doing the channeling. And I could
Yeah.
hear the dragons through it, by the way, just to say. Um, it was so apt that there was a storm and you were doing that, that live chat. Um,
Mhm.
but I've also noticed from some of the things there and also on the website that you are doing events where like you're sitting down and you've in a microphone, there are groups of people and things are happening. What's that all about?
So that was interestingly, that was something that happened through um this rose connection. So someone who is now a close friend of mine, Sophie,
Hmm.
she reached out to me because she saw one of my interviews where it was actually the first interview where I channeled one of the dragons of the Rising Rose. And she saw that and then invited me to her home in the UK, which is where I'm originally from.
Yes.
And then I just went over there, but it was really just mind blowing in so many different ways. Like there was somebody there who came up to me at the beginning of that interview, and she was like, "Oh, do you remember me?" And I looked at her, and she looked really familiar. And then I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, I know who you are. You're Joe. Like you." She was a student of the same teacher as mine.
Okay.
We had the same spiritual teacher, and it was pretty wild to see her there. Um, so yeah, sometimes I do in-person events like that where I'm channeling the dragons and allowing other people to connect with them and deepen their understanding uh, through the presence and energy that comes through me. Um, and I'll be doing another one of those at Medicine Festival in the
Okay.
UK
Okay.
in August.
Okay. Wonderful. So, Jack, I've got to ask you this now because I remembered this now as you're telling me that there is something about the rose. What is this? The rose, like, is it like an energy? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this because I recently, my friend Emma, gave me a deck of cards by Rebecca Campbell about the roses, the oracle card deck for roses, and she talks about something about the energy of the rose. So tell us about that because I read it. I don't remember it, but I'm also feeling like those cards is kind of my part in it because it's kind of come to me like, divinely orchestrated. Tell me about the rose, please.
Well, it's really an interesting thing that you asked that because somebody, when I was at that in-person event at Sophie's place, the first question that got asked to Flian Deshan was something similar, wanting to understand why the rose, what's the significance of that. And I think sometimes people are disappointed when they connect with me because I can't give many answers to things like that.
Mhm.
Like the way that I work and the way that like my body's attuned and just kind of what naturally comes to me. It's not really based in this kind of like intellectual metaphysical understanding. So for me, I don't know. And when the dragons come through me, because I'm not that motivated to know, they can't really answer that question.
Okay.
It's like I would I would need to know or have a desire to know for them to be able to flow that knowledge through me.
Okay. Okay.
So for me, it's like, I don't know, but what I do know is that these beings are wonderfully transformative and that the true teaching is wordless. So it's coming through, and maybe people would receive the, you know, the energy that's coming through me, and they might get an answer to that because they feel some desire or motivation to do so. But for me, I don't know, and I don't really mind.
Well, I'm okay with that answer. Thank you. I love it when, we just want to be real in our conversations, right? And it's just when you
Mhm.
said the rose, it made me think maybe I should ask that question about the rose because I didn't know about this thing that there was this actual thing, or maybe even I don't know, group of people that channel the rose or work with the energy of the rose and how it's so ancient. And this is what I'm saying
Yeah.
because I recall what she's written in the little guidebook in the box, in the Oracle card deck box there. But it's something that I think I will explore more in the future. And yeah, see what I mean? You've like kind of activated my understanding for that now. Um, so um tell me about this. Why do you offered these sessions on My Rising Rose. What kind of people
Mm.
would be looking for something that you're offering? And I don't mean like, oh, are we looking for, obviously we know anybody can do this, but when I ask what kind of people, I'm trying to work out how is this supporting the the collective? How is this thing that you're offering supporting the collective?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the dragons often talk about the great return, and that they've come here and are working with me specifically because they want to bring about the great return. And what that means is humanity has become disconnected from the cosmic consciousness. And sorry, there's people having a fight across the street. It's so unexpected. Um, so so humanity's become disconnected from the cosmic consciousness, just like falling into winter, you know, and we move through these seasons in the cosmos. And so for thousands of years, humanity's been in winter. And what's happening is we're coming back. So we're returning through spring.
Yes.
And they call that the Great Return because humanity's consciousness has been very closed, and then
Yes.
it starts to open and unfurl. And as it does, our minds and our identity starts to expand into the cosmos. And
Yes.
we remember who we are. We remember we are the cosmos. We remember that we are these great interdimensional beings that serve the cosmos. And we return together as one family. So
Yes.
they call that the Great Return. And so the people who come to me, they're, they're pretty wide ranging. Like the people that, lots of different types of people. Um, there's there's some commonalities between those people, and there's some people who are really struggling with traumas. Um, that's something that I've gone through in my own life, and I think because of that, there's this natural kind of linking together for me and people who are like that, because I have a lot of tenderness for that and a lot of understanding of pain. Um, so I'm able to be an ally standing alongside people while they heal. But then there's also people who are kind of, it's like they've explored in spirituality, and they've found these kind of upper places, and they've had some amazing insights, but they know that something's missing. And there's a sense of not really wanting to be here, like not
Yes.
really wanting to be a part of Earth, and
Yes.
being quite overwhelmed by the experience of being embodied and being like, I just want to go home,
Yeah.
and home being this place up here.
Yeah.
And often I'll work with people and it's like, okay, well, what happens if instead of searching for home up there, you search for home down here? What happens if this place that you're actually running away from is the home that you're looking for? Like, could it be that heaven and earth are one thing? And could we find that together? And because my consciousness is already open into that reality to some extent, there's a natural transference of that. So just by talking about it, oftentimes people will start having energetic experiences. And if they've done a lot of work up here, they tend to be very ripe for these downward movements. And when I just start talking about it and sending them a bit of energy, they'll be like, oh my God, like I never even knew that that was a possibility. You've just opened up this whole new world, a whole new world,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, yes, indeed. Oh, wow. That's really good. I like it because I feel like many of us on the planet have felt like we do not belong here. We've actually wondered, what the heck are we doing here? You know, and it's good that there is something on that you're offering that helps them find the answers to that, because this is it. And I'm sure that more and more in the next, I don't know, 10 years or so, people are going to be needing that to sort of come to terms with, okay, we're on Earth, but yes, we're looking up because we know that we have a cosmic history, but for the moment, in this time and space, we need to be here and figure out what we have to do here and find out the home within us.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
interesting. Very interesting. I feel like I know this is impromptu. I didn't say I was going to do this, but this is reminding me of the card I got for us today. I got 2 cards, all right? So
Yeah,
one of the cards that I got is this card here. It's called Home. Okay, I can't make it up. I got to tell you. Look at the heart.
yeah.
Yeah, it's this
Yes.
this oracle card deck is by the Beyond Lemuria oracle card deck, and it's by Easy Ivy. And I'm just saying that for point of reference. And what it says is very much what you just said now. This card invites you to align with your temple space. Consider all the amazing things your body does and how you effortlessly move through reality. Become aware of the many gifts that come from a deep sense of truly occupying yourself. Right? Often very intuitive souls exist within the upper chakras and may struggle with the density of humaning. You may not feel like you are from here, but as though you are more accustomed to navigating a world with different parameters. At this time on earth, it is a blessing to have the vessel of a body. It is an opportunity to make a difference. So celebrate it. You have dreams and visions and may yearn to float around in more etheric realms, but it is when we are fully grounded and present in our bodies that we can actualize these ideas and make a difference. Be grounded. Find your home. I can't make it up.
Beautiful.
Sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to start reading
Yeah,
at
I
you,
know.
but I couldn't help myself because you said home and I thought, oh my gosh, that was the home card, you know?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's perfect.
Perfect, right? Perfect. Perfect for what you are doing and how you're helping people to do that here. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So,
And you know what I find, like with the embodiment side of things as well, like I think sometimes that people can look at it as if it's not really spiritual, but it's the kind of something that you have to do because it's a kind of responsible thing to do. You
yes.
know, like, well, there's my good spiritual stuff over here, and I don't want to do this like downward embodiment stuff, but people are saying that I have to, so I suppose I should. And like what I've found, like through doing it, and I was dragged kicking and screaming into it, you know,
Yes.
like I didn't want to do it. It was kind of I was taken there. But having gone through many of the layers of that embodiment process, what I find is that it's linking the two. So my physical reality and my spiritual reality are one and the same thing. Like, and it's just deepening.
Yes.
Like yesterday, I was channeling one of the dragons for a group that I'm working with, and he was taking us into the heart of Mother Earth and went through this really beautiful meditation that allowed us to find like the spiritual light inside of ourselves, but then descend it down through our energetic roots into the heart of the earth, and then find her spiritual light and link the two. you know? So
Wow.
like our soul becomes linked with the soul of the earth. And,
Mm.
you know, that's a really intimate and beautiful spiritual experience, but it's very much one connected to groundedness and embodiment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's important at this time because many people are going through living on the planet and ascension and transformation and evolution and all of that, all those words that we use, but not understanding that we are becoming more and more, I've been feeling, we are becoming more and more light being, but still in the third dimension, and just how to embrace that and to recognize it and be easy with oneself and invite it and, just embrace it. Mm.
Yeah, like we get to live the dream,
Me
and
too.
yeah, and
Mm.
that's something that's been happening for me, you know, like my life has transformed so much. It's just unbelievable how different things are
Yeah.
now from 10 years ago, but also now just from a year ago, you know,
Yeah.
and I owe it to the work of this embodiment process, which can be challenging, but
Yeah.
also exceptional.
Mm. Yes. So, Jack, I want to ask this question because it's coming to my thought pattern now. Um, I know that you were studying to medicine, you've studied psychology, and now you are into the esoteric, to that intuitive side of things. Um, are you doing everything in terms of your living in life? Are you doing only this now, or do you do something psychology? Do you do something? Maybe it's a silly question. I don't know, something to do with medicine. Tell me about that.
No, it's a good, really good question. So like I went into studying medicine because I knew that I wanted to help people to heal. Like I knew that. And I was planning on becoming a psychiatrist because I knew even at a relatively young age that the troubled family that I grew up in was troubled for a reason, you know, and there were these psychological issues that were causing it.
Yes.
And then at school, like, you know, I was an atheist and I didn't really have any spiritual background. So the only option for healing was medicine and
Yes.
psychiatry or psychology. But I was kind of really encouraged by my school to go into medicine. So I did. And I did that for 3 years, but it was like I was not built for it. You know, I was struggling with my own unresolved psychological issues, which made it extremely difficult to keep up with the pace of medicine. Like it's a
Yeah.
really hardcore course. I learned a lot from it. I got to see people in very vulnerable states. One of the first patients that I ever saw was knew that she was going to die from the condition that she had. And
Wow.
I remember being blown away by her because I was so afraid of death at that time. And she had completely accepted what was going to happen to her.
Mm.
And I just remember her looking back at it now, like she was just glowing, you know, like she was the happiest person in the room.
Wow. Wow. Hmm.
And she knew she was going to die. And the doctors offered her treatments. And she was like, no, I'm going to go home and be with my family.
Wow.
And she, she's amazing. So I got to see things like that through studying medicine. But in the end, I failed my exams because it was just too much. I changed to psychology because I was like, okay, well, if I can't become a psychiatrist, I could become a psychologist.
Yes.
That actually appealed to me more because I didn't really agree with the medical model of prescribing medication for psychological issues. I thought, you know, you can kind of talk it through. Um, so that was then what was appealing to me. So I finished my psychology degree, um, started working in research, and was planning on doing research for a little bit, build up my CV, and then do clinical psychology. But it was while I was working in a research job in Cardiff that I had this really profound transformative experience, which just completely opened my eyes to this new spiritual reality, which I knew was a better cure for human problems than anything I had found in psychology or medicine.
Yes.
Um, initially I thought I thought I would just become a spiritual teacher, in a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I was dragged through the dark night of the soul and
Yeah.
all of the issues connected to that, like just working through my past. So it ended up taking about 10 years before I was then kind of invited by the universe to start working with people. Um, and I've been doing that as my only job, only source of income since then.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Um, so Jack, I come to this now, and I know from all the other interviews I've watched of yours, the interviewer has asked about your near-death experience, that Kundalini awakening that you had. They've asked about the near-death experience. You've told them about the dragons. You've told them about various things. You told them about the childhood trauma. You told them how you came to be, how you had your epiphany, or how you, like you said, you went kicking and screaming to this point, or like to this aspect of life. So there's all of that's out there, but I feel like there's some things I've picked up through those conversations that I wanted to talk about. So please talk about your near-death experience. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but for the benefit of the people that are going to listen to this, in your words, tell us about your near-death experience. And
Yeah.
however you feel guided to do that, please feel free to tell us about that.
Thank you. First of all, I also just want to say thank you to you for taking the time to actually watch all the interviews that I've done. Because sometimes I'll sign up to do interviews, and um, for whatever reason, people don't have the time or the inclination to watch them,
Yeah.
and I end up kind of retreading the same ground, which is
Yes.
understandable. Like now, like it's
Yeah.
necessary so that everyone can know where we're all at.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you for actually doing that.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Before you answer that, thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the planet. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking that journey that is least understood by most of the world, and for stepping out and being brave to do what you're doing. And what you're offering right now is very unique. It is absolutely apt for this time and space. And we'll see why as we carry on. But I want to say thank you. And thank you for coming into my world, because I was introduced to you by a lady called Leslie Shankman. She's been doing the Stellar Nations videos on YouTube, and we can always talk about that later. But she knew I needed to watch you, and you stilled my heart. The first interview I watched, I could not, something changed in my whole world that day. And when I
wow.
shared it with other people, it's still them. My daughter said to me, Mom, can you please tell Jack, she's an artist, can you please tell Jack he activated me to start doing artwork with dragons for the future? That is my future. So I need you to know that. It's making me tearful. I have other people that have watched it, just watched the videos. And Jack, I don't know what, but every time I watch one of your videos, or I look at my rising rose on the website, because I've been obviously doing a lot of this research. I just feel all this energy around me. My people are right there. And when I say my people, I mean my guides, my dragons, everyone are like all around me. And so I'm really activated when I watch that. So sorry, please answer the question if you can remember what it was now that I went on off a tangent.
Well, I tend to go off on tangents, but I'm very happy just to dip into that for a second. Like I, I'm doing this interview with you as I'm just walking down the street, and one of the reasons that really appeals to me is because I like being an ordinary person, and I feel that being an ordinary person is kind of the highest thing that any of us can really achieve. And so I have this very casual way about me, and I that's intentional. My teacher was like that, and I want to carry on her legacy.
Yes.
Um, yet, like my teacher, alongside this very casual, down to earth approach, there's something very powerful that's coming through. And that's because I am awake in these places. So I do know that I am this world. I do know that I am the cosmos, and I do know that you are too.
Thank you.
And because that knowing isn't intellectual and it's based in an energetic and knowledge-based reality, it transfers naturally. So I
Yes.
think in a way I'm a kind of portal or a mirror to your own remembering.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's why you have those reactions.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So back to the question. Tell us about your near-death experience, please.
Sure. So it's different to most near-death experiences. The main reason being that it wasn't triggered by a threat to my physical body, but it was triggered through a week of very intense self-inquiry, meditation practice by Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah.
So through practicing that, the threat and the kind of death experience was actually on the level of my ego rather than the level of my physical body.
Okay.
But I can assure you that that death is at least as scary as the physical body one.
Yes. Yes.
But so basically, I was practicing that meditation. I was starting to have it cleared my mind, and my mind became incredibly still. I was very, very peaceful. And then I started to have unusual experiences during dreams. So my mind was so still that I experienced the transition between waking and sleeping with just like continuously, you know, there was no break
Yeah.
in it. And I experienced my body going into sleep paralysis, experienced dreams starting to form in my mind, lucid within those dreams, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm in one of these dreams, and sat in front of me is this like a meditation teacher who looked a little bit like Ramana Maharshi. I don't know if it actually was him, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, wearing like a little loincloth and nothing else, like an
Yeah.
Indian man, quite thin. And he was just like, feel the awareness in your left hand, feel the awareness in your right hand. I felt them. Then he said the hands are different. I felt that difference. Then he said the awareness is one. And I felt that.
Okay.
And that's an easy thing to talk about. But if you actually notice that, you really become aware of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that can be massively transformative. Because it can shatter your beliefs about who and what you are and what reality is. So that's what happened. There was this
Mm.
kind of shattering, because the whole dream collapsed in on itself. And then my back like rotated back like at this crazy angle. I heard a really loud snap,
Okay.
and then I was just in darkness in the distance. I'm speaking quite quickly because I've mentioned this story quite a few times. I don't want to
Yes.
have
That's
it take
why,
up too much
yeah,
time.
that's why I said you just do your version of it. It's okay.
Sure. And then there's a light in the distance, classic kind of tunnel of light experience that people talk about with near-death experiences.
Mm.
I'm in the darkness, there's a light in the distance. The light itself was ecstatic, like literally an orgasm at its peak. That's what it felt like. And
Yeah.
that's all it was. Like it never fluctuated. It's just solid. And the darkness was just like pure fear.
Okay.
Like, and I literally felt like I was dying on some kind of really fundamental level. Like
Yes.
it felt like the fabric of what I had built my life upon was unraveling. And if you've ever felt something like that, you know, it's very intimidating.
Mm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I saw this golden light and I felt it and I knew that something good was happening.
Yeah.
It's just, it was so overwhelming on an emotional level.
Yeah.
Um, when the light got really close, I felt a presence near me, and it gave me an invitation, like, do you want to cross into the light? To which my
Yeah.
answer was absolutely not. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would mean total annihilation
Yeah.
on a level I cannot understand.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I know it looks great and everything, but sorry, I can't do that. And then, like a kind of loving parent who knew that this was for my best, the presence gave me a little push. Probably because it had been charged up by all that meditation practice
Mm,
that I'd done.
mm, mm.
And it kind of pushed me over into the light. And then all the fear completely disappeared as if it had never been there. I was just completely unburdened of that, which was
Yeah.
wonderful. And then I was just in this orgasmic ocean of golden light, just experiencing it. I don't know how long I was in there for, but at some point, a concern came into my body of like, I hope my body's okay.
Okay.
And then I was in my body again, and that same orgasmic light was moving up and down my spine. I
Okay.
didn't know anything about Kundalini awakening,
Mm-hmm.
so this was
Wow.
quite a shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I later learned about Kundalini
Yeah.
energy, and I was like, oh my God, that's what's happened to me.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. You had some
Yeah,
consequences. Are you finished telling us about that? Can I ask the next question?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
You
yeah,
had
yeah, for
some
sure.
you had some consequences after that experience.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
yeah. So it's like it had the light had just like downloaded itself into my system, or like my system had opened now to that light. And as a result, it's like the dimmer switch had been turned up.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that human beings were really capable of experiencing the things that I then started to experience. So being able to see energy,
Wow.
which for me, I see it as like that same golden light, and I
Mm-hmm.
see it inside everything, and I can look at it and focus on it, and then I feel it as one, like the energy inside myself and the
Mm.
energy inside the other.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's this one light.
Yeah.
And I see it kind of around everything and everyone as well. It's like everyone is glowing. And I think what it is like the light of the soul. And I can see that
Wow.
in everyone and everything. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm looking at a bike right now, and I can see it in that, and I can see it in all the people who are walking past. So that started happening, which was a little overwhelming for someone
Mm.
who, up until very recently, had been an atheist.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And I was having out of body experiences for the first time. So
Mm.
um, going to other dimensions, guided by these beings, meeting angels, and forming connections with them.
Wow,
And
Jack.
it's hard to talk about, always hard to talk about angels because they're so beautiful.
Yes.
It's always starts bringing me to tears.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
literally, look, I can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
seen other people like this, like I remember I've watched a few interviews with people who have these kinds of experiences, and they'll often start choking up, and they'll be like, I cannot talk to you about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps the physical form or the human form cannot, it's too much for it to absorb that information. It has to come in stages or pieces.
Yes, exactly that. One of the other things that happened was I started having telepathic communication in my waking life
Okay.
with all sorts of different beings. And one of those at one point was this goddess, like this heavenly goddess of light. And she was telling me how much she loves me and how much she loves all creation. And she like gave me like the tiniest drop of that love. And I was just like a wreck,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
crying so much. And she was like, if I gave you the fullness of my love for you, your body would, not only would you not be able to handle it, not only would it actually kill you, but your entire body would vaporize. Like
Wow.
that's the situation that we're in now,
Mm.
because love is trying to embody itself on the earth, but humanity is literally incapable of holding that. Like, our body needs to go through certain structural changes so that love can actually start flowing through us. And what we're living through individually, if you're going through awakenings, or collectively, is we're going through this reshaping, much like carbon turning from graphite into diamond.
Yeah.
This reshaping that will actually allow that level of love to be embodied here. That's the work that we're doing.
Wow. Well, do you think in time we're all going to understand that?
I think everything's going to go the way it needs to go. And it's funny because, like, there's times where I feel very attached to my life, you know, and I really want to kind of be here and do it all right. But there's right now, while I'm talking to you and spirit is coming through strongly, I just feel like I need to play my part. Like, I'm not this body. Like, this body is a tool, in a sense, in a way that's also not true, but in a sense, like, when this body dies, I'm not going to die. Like, I'm going to evolve and expand into something like way nicer. And
Yes.
like, I'm cool with just playing my part. I say that now. If I was really triggered by something, you'd hear a different response. But right now, while I'm feeling really open and clear, that's how I
Yes.
feel. So the reason that I'm saying this is because not all of us are going to make it through. You know, we're not all going to get through this. And that's okay, because we're here to play our parts. And I do think that there's going to be some massive, massive global changes. Yeah, and I don't think we're all going to get through that. And I think we all need to take some time to be okay with that, you know,
Yes.
to be able to accept that and accept our place in this world. Because really, we're like a paintbrush, and
Yeah.
our own self is using the paintbrush that is what we think is only what we are,
Yes.
to
Yes.
paint this masterpiece. And it's like, well, maybe we just need to allow ourselves to be that paintbrush and be
Yes.
discarded when it's time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Not all of us are going to make it. I understand that myself. It's taken me a while to come to that acceptance that not all of us are going to make it. And, the sadness of that as becoming where I'm starting to realize acceptance of that is important about of that fact, because I've come to realize we all have soul contracts. And I believe that we have soul contracts. And I think the soul contracts, whatever we've agreed to do, we need to do it. And whatever comes out of it comes out of it. So therefore, I think not all of us will make it. Not all, but and even those that are not making it, it's their part to play to not make it, so that others can awaken. They can be the
Yeah,
example of that, right? Or whatever. They are the
yeah,
teachers, actually. By living and being, they are teachers. So I don't know. And it is about taking it one day at a time and saying, I'm just here to do my part, and everything else will do whatever it is supposed to do, or everyone else will do whatever they're supposed to do, and be in acceptance and come to
yeah,
peace with that. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Jack, I was going to ask about this. I know that um, everyone that's been interviewing you, well, they've talked about the traumatic childhood part of this.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it in all the interviews, and I've just gleaned some things from that, because last night I was listening to your interview, your demo session with Healing with Lena Roger. I think you did that a year ago or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, that was, for me, I was quite emotional because I could see the little, whatever was coming through and you were having the healing. I could see the little boy lying on I could see the 2-year-old lying on the floor. And if anybody's watching and you want to know what we're talking about, you can check out Real Healing with Lena Roger. I'll put the link in the description
Lena
box.
Roger.
Oh,
Roger is her
I beg
surname.
Roger, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah,
Lena
yeah, yeah.
Roger. I will put the
Hmm.
link in the description box anyway for anyone who wants to catch it. Now,
Perfect.
I felt I kind of, when I was watching that with you and coming through watching the interview. So one of the things I want to say was I found quite profound was you relating a time when your mum had asked your dad to speak to you about this change that you were making in terms of career. And your dad said this to you, and you were saying about how you realized this at that time about learning. You were learning the science of the body, and then you were learning with the medical, try doing medicine, and then you were learning the science of the mind when you were doing psychology, and then now you're learning the science of the intuition or the spirit. And you were talking about that, and I was like, wow, did your dad realize how profound that statement was and what the truth was about the whole thing, and how it was like, I suppose, telling you what you were doing and supporting it because he was meant to talk you out of it, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mum and my dad are very different people, and my mum is a worrier. She worries a lot, lots of
Yeah.
anxiety. My dad is way more laid back. And the amazing thing about that was my dad left when I was 4 years old. So my mum and dad got divorced when I was 4, and I only saw him maybe once or twice a year since then. So it's not like he knows me really well, or that we have a really great connection, which that statement might make it sound like. But one of the things it showed me was that, first of all, he's highly intuitive. And even though he's not like spiritual overtly, there's something in him that is. And he's very good at sensing people and kind of knowing what's going on in them. And I think I actually inherited that from him, which, for someone who's gone through a lot of childhood trauma and has had a lot of resentment toward my parents, like, to realize that some of the gifts that I really enjoy now are actually from my parents. It was kind of humbling, and it was difficult for me to accept. But when I did, it really opened my heart and returned a sense of love to my parents that I had been suppressing, actually, for a long time.
Yeah.
So it did that. I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
That's okay. We were talking about your dad making that statement about this, you're learning the science of the mind, of the body, the mind, and then of spirit. That was you just commenting about it. Now, I want to say something at this point. So I think you've responded to that. I want to just go back to Lena Roger, that video that I watched, and I'm coming back to Mum very shortly. I really felt the little 2-year-old in this, and I watched it, and I'm trying to say this in a way that I have, because I don't know all the trauma you've gone through, but I've also had a traumatic childhood, and I've also had parents that I just didn't want, they didn't weren't very they were expressive, but it was in a weird way, and I didn't quite get the love thing. I didn't get that they loved me, that sort of thing. And been angry
Yeah.
with my parents for a long, long time. And in the last few years, I've been doing all my clearing the karma. My dad has passed on, and I had to do some ceremony to clear the karma, that kind of thing. My mom is still alive, and you kind of activated me to this knowledge. And I need to say this to you, just watching that video and watching, listening to you talk about it, your childhood in other videos, that all of them, even though they weren't ideal parents, and we have an idea of how ideal parents should be, or how childhood should be, because we've been programmed that childhood should be a certain way, right? Secure, safe, warm, loving, happy, no tension, nurturing, all of that. And that's what we expect here on this planet. That's what we've been brought into. But even these people, just to support what you said, even these people, these parents that we apparently chose before we came here, were instrumental in helping us become who we are right now in this time and space.
Yeah.
And that's the contract. That is the soul contract. And when I was listening to you speak with Lena Roger, I knew that we had similar contracts. I mean, I can't, like, I won't go into all the detail. I cannot go into all the details of growing up and the trauma and all of that, and how long it's taken and how much work I've had to do to come through the trauma. But it was meant for me to be in that space, because that is what my contract was, in order to be empathizing with others. Part of my time here on the planet is to work, is to bring people through this human trafficking stuff, like, people that were like, what happens, what we've heard that happens with kids that are children or people in human trafficking situations. But some of us had to go through sexual abuse to have the empathy for that. And I just got those downloads as I've been listening to you in this last few weeks. So it's about the contract, and it's saying we have to turn it around. Well, we have to come to the realization that we love them anyway, because they were the teachers and they were the catalysts for us becoming who we are now. And I don't know if that I think supports what you were just saying just now.
I agree. And as you were talking, I could feel the energies of the underworld opening up beneath me. Like, so the earth holds the memory of everything that happens to every being on this earth, because we are all actually the earth herself. And I can hear a crow cawing near me, and my primary goddess is the Morrigan, and her one of the animals that's closest to her are crows. And when I hear crows cawing and I feel them close, like, that's a sign that she's near. And she's a goddess of the underworld, and her role is really to clear through the entanglements and the knots that exist inside of the deeper levels of the earth and the deeper levels of our psyche, which become blocked through traumas.
Yeah.
So for my own life, I can see that the neglect and abuse that I experienced in childhood, which was real and has had profound negative consequences for me, which I still struggle through. Those were like necessary to push me into the deeper levels of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, to push me deeper into the underworld, because it was known that the light that I had built up through previous lifetimes was strong enough that it would shine in those places. And the light is most needed in the places that are most blocked.
Yeah.
So some of us have been planted into those places in order to bring the light in, or in order to hold certain frequencies and experiences just to endure them.
Yes.
And also to be perpetrators and all of these different things. It's so nuanced, like the reasons why we have the life experiences that we have.
I know.
But I've reached
Go on.
I've reached the point now where I do genuinely feel grateful There's still some resentment toward my parents. Like, I don't want to make out that that's not there. I really want to just be real, because I think there's too many spiritual teachers out there who, quite frankly, are either deluding themselves or deluding a lot of other people and making out like they're in a state of consciousness that no human can be in. And I really, really don't want to be one of those people.
Yeah.
And my teacher wasn't like that. And I'm dedicated to not being like that too. So I have lots of my own personal struggles still. I'm
Mhm.
human.
Yes.
Um,
Mm.
but I have also reached some level of forgiveness, at least.
And that's good, because I that was where I was coming to next. Like, yeah, I heard you say in one of your videos that you love your mom. And you know, um, it's kind of, and I think you'll understand this. It's kind of confusing, the relationship, if you have a relationship like that with a parent, where sometimes some things happen, and uh, you love them, but you hate them, or you don't like what
Yeah.
they're doing, right? And you also like it, and then you wonder, do I love that person because I've been programmed to love that person? Is it like that weird, you know, when somebody like kidnaps a child and
Mm,
do you know what I mean? Like fashions them to
yeah.
like the bad things that's happening to them, or like to accept the bad things, or to be submissive. And so it's kind
Yes.
of I'm sorry that I know I didn't even think I was going to say that, but it's kind of like, for me, I feel like that. It's almost like I have to love my captor. Do you know what I'm saying when I say that?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I was so, like, I was just so amazed at how you confessed your feelings to your mom, toward your mom. And I honor you for that. I honor you that you've come to that place, and I know that it's not easy. It cannot be easy. I've been there myself. Like, my parents were not. I said sexual abuse earlier, and my parents were not responsible for that, but they were not loving to me, and there was a lot of other things like ridicule and emotional abuse and physical abuse, like, just knock me around if they're not
Mm-hmm.
happy, or be a punching bag because one is having a bad day or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
and it takes a long time to say, and because you just never know what they're going to do next, especially if the parent is volatile. And I think you know, from your 2-year-old experience, you would have already been programmed to expect anything. And the thing that you're expecting is normally not nice. Like, just be on
Yeah.
tenterhooks all the time. Just be careful all the time. You just don't know. If it looks good today, go with it. If it looks bad, be careful, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but you said a great thing, and you said you love your mom. And I understand that, because I love mine too. But I also know that it's taken me a long time until this week I could see the goddess rising in her. Isn't that incredible? And I want to say, but I say it's incredible for me because I want to be different. Like you're saying, you're different. You want to do things differently. You want to be different from that hate all the time, or whatever, or being angry all the
Yeah.
time. How would you say you
Yeah.
worked through that? How did you work through that?
So I think there were many different stages, and I was supported a lot. So especially by the goddesses and the dragons that I worked with,
Yes.
I supported a huge amount by them. Still hear this crow cawing. It's like, so the Morrigan, who I call Morgana, it's like her just kind of being like, don't forget to mention the years that I held you when you were alone and struggling. So thank you to Morgana. Um, so I had a huge amount of support there, and was able to release this to some degree, like, and to see that, it's kind of cliched, but holding on to hatred hurts us the most.
True.
um I see it in my sister, who isn't able to forgive um my mother especially, and my dad too, like, for the pains that they inflicted on us. um it took a long time, like many, many years of like ups and downs, slowly, gradually working through things, um, realizing that no one is to blame for any of this. like having these epiphanies, sometimes when talking to friends and being like, hang on, there's actually nothing to forgive. Like the cosmos is completely perfect as it is. Everything that's happened needed to arise. And I don't need to blame myself. I don't need to blame them. I don't need to blame their parents who did similar things or actually worse things to them.
Yeah.
Like, because where does it stop? Like, where's the original cause of the suffering? Where do you point the finger? Like, if you start expanding your mind out, you'll start realizing that there's no place that you can truly land that. Like, where would you go? Back to the origins of the cosmos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who do you blame?
Yeah.
And then also like, well, all of these great gifts that I have now that I share with other people would not have been possible without them.
Exactly.
So that there's that level too.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things for my mom especially, it was actually my birthday last year that really dropped it in. And it wasn't really anything that I did. It's just that during my birthdays, I would tend to feel really sad in something that I have had for a very long time. And I thought things would be different because I'm in a new city and have all these wonderful friends around me. And I thought, it's different now, so it's not going to happen. But then it did. It just literally came on suddenly, this like sinking despair, and it was really intense. And there was just a moment in that intensity where I realized that actually my mum also experiences that. She also has this really heavy negative burden upon her, and that we're linked. And I was really struggling to process it and work through it. And I've done years and years of spiritual work where I've been supported by all these amazing beings and had a great teacher and all of this. And I was really struggling. So how hard is it for her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when I realized that, and it wasn't an intellectual thing, it just dropped into my body, just like bang. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it, like, how was she supposed to do anything different? Like,
Exactly.
she's massively overwhelmed. Like, this is way out of her capacity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I realized that, my heart just opened and it was like, well, there's no point in holding a grudge against her. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it almost completely evaporated. Like, there is still moments where it kind of comes in, but it's way, way less. And now, like, we have great conversations. Like, she's really open with me in a way that she isn't with basically anyone else
Mm.
in the family. Like, and we can talk about some of the really difficult things. Most of the time when we have conversations, we end up going into like these really challenging things from the past. And as I was saying to her the other day, like, what's really beautiful about it now is that we can talk about it and both of us are calm.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it's like everyone in our family was so just suffocated by their suffering
Yeah.
that they desperately wanted everybody else to know and connect with it. But because we didn't have enough consciousness to handle that, it would just come out in these explosions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
no one ever really got to be heard. No one ever really got to be met. And as a family, we just shattered.
Yeah.
But I'm truly grateful that now me and my mum can have these conversations. And, you know, I claim the credit for that.
And so you should, because you are the um well, you have come to be the teacher and the awakener. And sometimes, that parent-child dynamic. Uh Parents are always supposed to know more than we, right? We do. They
Yeah.
age-old thing is that parent is the guide to the child. And well, I know that quite often, even me being a parent myself, sometimes my daughter has come to teach me how to be. And when that concept of parents as the guide to the child goes away, then everybody will understand the equalness that we all have, in that we are all learning from each other. But I just want to come back to how you explained this relationship you now have with your mum, and that you talk about it, and or the realization you had about that she's going through the same thing and how it must feel for her, and that compassion you felt for her. I mean, that is amazing. Do you know that my only started this week when I suddenly realized I've been talking to a few people that are connected to the goddess Isis this week, and I suddenly started to see that my mother, I don't know how. Oh, she'd sent me, my mother's in South Africa. I'm South African Indian, so my mom had sent me some masala, like South African masala that she'd mixed herself. And it came to me, and I opened the bag. I've had it for months now, but I opened the bag. And as I opened the bag, the realization that my mother's hands had touched that, and that it comes from her kitchen, and it comes from, that's how she shows me she loves me. It just
Yeah.
shifted me and moved me. And then I started to see my mother, the goddess that brought me into this, that birthed me into this world, into this physical world. And I heard this question. She's in so much ignorance. Can you imagine what a giant leap she's taken? What a hero she is, that's chosen to come here and be ignorant so that you can be you. And I just started to feel very emotional about the whole thing. And I thought, now from here, from this point, I mean, I have a good relationship with my mom, but it's very much a relationship that is surface, and because there's a lot of denial on her side of things. And they started to show me what was under that which I see. And, there's a goddess there. And the burden of coming and being ignorant and playing the role of somebody who's sleeping must be hard for the soul, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she has to carry the burdens of everything that she's done to you.
That's right.
And
Yeah, and that's the soul. Yeah, wow. Mm.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
So I want to say, now we come to the dragons. A few weeks prior to me coming to you
I just want to say quickly as well,
yes.
the battery on my phone is at about 12%.
Okay.
And so we've probably got about 10 or 15 minutes,
Yes.
just to give you
Perfect.
a heads up.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm supposed to tell you this today. A few days before your video came to me and I watched it, I did some light language, and I channeled dragons, and I've been working with the dragons for a long time. And for the first time, I heard grandmother, godmother dragon, because I always work with I feel the masculine dragons, not the feminine dragons. And then you
Mhm.
came along and you brought in the white dragon, that's a feminine, that carries the divine feminine energy. So thank you so much for that. I also want to say, as we were speaking now, before you mentioned Morgana, I heard I carry the energy of Morgana. I'm sorry. I need to say that to you. I don't know why I suddenly found myself thinking I have Morgana with me. So, and
Mm.
then I didn't know that it was Morgana that is your guide. I thought you
Ah,
said, I thought you said another. I thought Morrigan comes from not Morgana, but from another goddess or something like that. So sorry, but I just wanted to say that to you, and it just kind of everything clicked for me as our connection. Now, please tell us about your dragons and who's coming through.
so do a channeling. I guess
Well, whatever you feel you need to do, because you were telling me there was a dragon that was supposed to come through. So yeah.
there's a lot that I could say to what you were just sharing there. But because time is limited, I'll focus on the dragon channeling now. I also
Um,
quite like it because I'm out in public, and there's something vulnerable about it and beautiful about it. And it's beautiful that I've reached this point where I can have this entire conversation with you and include dragon channeling in it, while I'm just like in this public space. But yeah, I just got a reminder from my phone saying that battery is running very low. So I want to bring through Vianaka. I can't pronounce his name properly, but he's the red dragon of the Rising Rose. And if you go to my channel, My Rising Rose on YouTube, you can see there's another channeling by him. But I'll bring him through now and he can quickly speak with you and then can, before we draw things to a close. Okay, so when I channel it takes me a minute or two. I start speaking Dragon Light language, and then when they're in, they'll say their name 3 times and do a brief introduction, and then they can speak with you. I'm still tuning myself in a little. I'm tuning myself in. This is an interesting challenge because there are many distractions for Jack's mind that make it harder to deeply allow myself in, but here I am. Here I am. Here I am. Here I am. Via Nak via Nak via Nak Red Rose, red chakra dragon of the Rising Rose. I'm part of the root chakra of the cosmos. Part of the root chakra of the cosmos. And I flow from the center of the cosmos like a river. And I move through many galaxies and many solar systems on my journey. And like a blood vessel, I give life. I give the blood of the root chakra of the cosmos to all of the places that I pass through. And one of these places is this living world, Gaia, Mother Earth. I am located deep inside of her. I flow through her depths and I rise through her into each of your root chakras, should you allow me to be there with you consciously. And there I bring you the blessings and the gifts of true groundedness and safety. True groundedness and safety. Yes, and there, for many of you have not experienced true safety. You do not know safety. You have experienced many traumas that have caused your root to close and many knots to exist in the energies of your roots that are meant to descend down deep into the heart of this living world. So, if you will have me, allow me to be your protector. Allow me to be the bringer of light to your roots, so that your roots may cleanse out the negativity held within them and reforge their connection with this living world, so that love itself may reign supreme here in this great earth. I'm shining through Jack's body very strongly right now because I am at Tiergarten, which is one of the major places of meeting of people in Berlin. And in fact, though Jack does not know this fully, this place is one of the primary routing locations for the entire city. My energy comes through very strongly here, and I allow it to come through very strongly because as it does, it allows the rooting and cleansing of all these good people who live here. So I provide this for them at the same time as I move through Jack's body. Kia nalai. Our time is limited, so I wonder, do you have any questions for me?
I would hope that we would meet again. I believe we have to meet again because of our time being limited. Maraketa paranoko chile katata koramahain tututo frakese.
Beautiful. We can do that. We can do another time. But before, in closing, perhaps you have some closing remarks that you wish to give.
Yes.
But I would like to give some closing remarks.
Please.
And then this will be my final speech for today. I am Vianaka, red root chakra dragon of the rising rose. Long have I known humanity. Long have I stood alongside you, for I was there at the fall of Atlantis all those years ago, and I served you during the time of Lemuria when we were friends and we danced on the fields of green. So I am with you again now, shining myself through my beloved sun, so that we all may rejoice in the great return of humanity. And do not fear, for you are supported by beings so great and powerful that nothing could befall you that would not be meant for you. Everything, no matter the struggle, you will always find your way through, for your divinity is what guides you, and your divinity can do no wrong. So trust, as my beloved son trusts right now as he channels me in this public space. Trust that you too are here to shine the truth that is all of your own, and that I and the many other beings of this sacred land will support you. Kia nalai. That is my final words for today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Omakahe. Tokarana haito. Jack, are you back? Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording and just keep talking to you because I realize we are going to be disconnected with that battery. But thank you everyone for watching here on Ananda Rose. Thank you, Jack Morrigan. Thank you, Red Dragon. Karamakato Faranahai. We'll catch you next time on Ananda Rose. Bye, everyone.